This is how easy it could be to create a virtual machine on your local computer. You edit your configuration file of the virtual machine, you execute a command, and there you go, you have your virtual machine. So welcome to a video where I will be showing you how to create virtual machines on the easiest and the fastest way that is possible, thanks to a great tool that is called Vagrant. And that's going to be the main topic of this video. We are going to talk about the main reasons that you want to create virtual machines, especially Linux-based virtual machines. And we are also going to explore the advantages of using Vagrant for this purpose. So playing around with Linux-based virtual machines is always fun because exploring the commands that are available in Linux is always fun to learn and fun to look at. So let's get started. So what is even creating a virtual machine? What does it really mean to your actual computer? So virtual machine is a virtual computer that could be hosted on your physical computer, and the beauty behind that, it is the fact that it uses your physical hardware to create separated computers based on your actual computer. For example, right now I have a computer that uses Windows 10, but thanks to the option of virtual machines in our technology, I could go ahead and create separated computers that could be based on Linux. And in order to do that, we need to use our actual physical hardware from our computer. So thanks to the memory, CPU, and other things that we could virtualize, we could go ahead and create separated virtual machines. Now, in order to create those, we actually need to go ahead and install some software that will support to create virtual machines, what is called in a professional language a hypervisor. And that's exactly what we are going to do just right now. We are going to install a hypervisor, and in addition we are going to install Vagrant, which is the tool that I talked about from the very beginning, which will allow us to create those virtual machines very easily. Because in normal life, creating virtual machines could take more than just a few minutes, and to configure the operating system itself sometimes could take even a few hours. And that's the main reason of this video, right? We are going to use Vagrant to automate this stuff and to create those virtual machines very quickly. Now, a quick side note, I will be showing the installations on a Windows operating system. So if you own a Mac or your physical computer is just a different operating system than Windows, then you are just welcome to follow the installations from the links section down below from the description. Alright, so the first thing that we are going to do is to install a command line utility that just automates installation of other packages. So Vagrant is a package that needs to be installed, but it could be easily installed from your terminal and it will save some time. So in order to do that, I'm going to install something that is called Chocolatey, and Chocolatey is just a package manager that exists on Windows. Now, everything that you need to do is to go ahead to that link, and you just need to go ahead and copy this command here and execute it on a PowerShell. So PowerShell is just an advanced CMD sort of thing on Windows, and that's how it is going to work. So we are going to enter to that PowerShell. And another important side note here, make sure you open your terminal in administrator mode. It is very important because you are taking some low-level actions and you need those privileges. Alright, so you go ahead and you use PowerShell, and then you just paste the command. Now this command just basically goes ahead and install the Chocolatey, and once you press enter, you can see that for myself it is not quite showing some logs because I already have this installed. But for you, you should be able to now exit from PowerShell, and then let's clean the screen, and then you should be able to just say something like choco install, and we will provide the software that we want to install right now. So in order to test that we have the Choco or Chocolatey installed, I'm just going to not provide any information, but you can see that it recognizes the installation of Chocolatey. It means that we have installed this successfully, and it doesn't throw me something like unrecognized command or something like that. And in that stage, if you don't see the same result as I see here, then you might want to restart your terminal, but don't forget to use administrative privileges once you restart the terminal. Alright, so now that we have this, then one of the first things that we want to install is the Vagrant itself, which we will see how it is going to work just in a few minutes. But it is a great idea to already install this on our computer, so it will be as easy as saying choco install Vagrant, and we might need to add here a confirmation. And in the confirmation, make sure that you press on A, because it will say yes to all. And I will just press enter here, and we will wait a couple of seconds until it's complete. Alright, so you can see after the installation that there is a recommendation about how we should reboot our computer as soon as possible. Now, don't do that, because the next software, which is the hypervisor, will require reboot as well, so we'll do only a one-time reboot right after we install the hypervisor. And as you remember, the hypervisor is required in order to have the software that knows how to create the virtual machines, because the hypervisor knows how to take your physical hardware and virtualize those in order to bring you a virtual machine. And that's why we also need to install this hypervisor. Now, you might be familiar with the Hyper-V of Windows, or also VMware, or any other kind of utility that is considered as a hypervisor. Now we are going to install VirtualBox by Oracle, because that is the default hypervisor that Vagrant knows how to communicate with it. So that is why we are easily going to clean the screen here, and we are going to say choco install VirtualBox like that. Now the installation of that might take a little bit long, 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes even more. Just give it the time that it needs, and after this installation finishes, we are going to reboot our computer, and then we will be ready to spin a virtual machine with Vagrant. Alright, so now that the VirtualBox installation has been completed, then I want to verify that both of these have been installed successfully. Now one thing that you can do is to execute choco list -- local - only. And this will be responsible to show you all the installed packages with chocolatey. Now, if you will find here Vagrant and VirtualBox, it means that you have done a perfect job. And if you have problems until this point, make sure to comment them down so I can help you out. Now in that stage, as you remember, it is safe to do a reboot, so we will have the full functionality of the tools that we have just installed. Okay, so we are back after rebooting our system. Now you can see that I'm using a different directory just to prepare my virtual machine inside this directory. Now the first command that we will be executing is called vagrant init, and that stands for initializing our virtual machine's configuration in order to really spin up this virtual machine. Now init is just a command that prepares the workspace with the necessary configuration files. For example, this command is just going to generate a configuration file that will help us to edit configurations like how much memory we want in this virtual machine, or how much disk it needs, and what operating system we are going to use. So take a look what will happen once we will execute this command. So I will allow myself to put the terminal and the file browser side by side. So VMs, first machine, and let's see what will happen once we press on enter here. Okay, so you can definitely see that we have a new file being generated, and let's take a look to what is inside this file. Alright, so I have the PyCharm opened here in the directory where the Vagrant file is located. Now, if you want to know how I set up these colored lines in here, basically editing the theme of PyCharm, which is my favorite IDE for configuring everything, especially writing Python, then you can take a look in the suggested link up top. Alright, so this is how the Vagrant file looks like, and this is just a basic configuration of how our virtual machine is going to look like. Now, the programming language that this syntax is belong to is Ruby. Ruby is just a programming language, and this is just how Vagrant configures its virtual machines. And don't worry if you don't know how Ruby works and how to write Ruby, we will have the basic knowledge that is required to edit the necessary lines that we need to modify our virtual machine. So you can see that the first line that is uncommented, so you can notice that most of the lines are commented, so those are not going to be activated. And this is the first line that is not commented in here. And you can see it says vagrant.configure. It has some argument of string with the number of 2. This is just pointing to the syntax version that it uses. You could have been seen there 1 or 3 if you will watch this video in the future, then you might see their different number. You can also see that the next uncommented line is .vm.box. Now, what does even box mean in terms of Vagrant? So each virtual machine, each operating system is already templated and ready for you in a website that has multiple boxes. A box is just a virtual machine image, right? You can go ahead and use a box that is named Ubuntu, and it will know how to install Ubuntu on your computer as the first virtual machine that you want to create. So let's take a look to the list of available boxes that you can go ahead and use with Vagrant, and it will be as easy as accessing to this website from your browser. And if we actually take a look to what exists in this link, then you can see that we have a list of boxes that we can use. You can see that we have Ubuntu. We can also use any operating system that we like. We can use Fedora, CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, basically anything that you want. I will be using Red Hat just for fun, and let's go ahead to change that to an already prepared Red Hat Enterprise Linux box. So I will just say generic /RHEL 8. 8 will be the version of this specific operating system. And that's it. I'm not going to modify everything. Of course, sky is the limit with what you can do with this file, right? But we will start with a basic configuration just to really prepare our virtual machine. Alright, so back to our terminal. Now we have finished editing this Vagrant file. The only thing that we need to do is to say Vagrant up. And it is just as easy as it is, and it is quite amazing. It will take a minute or two to prepare this virtual machine, and let's see what will happen once this completes. And we will also understand how we can access to our virtual machine. Alright, so our virtual machine is ready, and the only thing that we need to do now is figuring out how we can access it. So I'm going to clean our screen here, and I'm just going to say Vagrant SSH. Now, SSH, as you know, is a protocol that is used to securely accessing to the shell of a destination server. Now, by using Vagrant SSH, it will just save time for you from providing the IP address of your computer. Vagrant SSH will take care of how to communicate to that server, and it will just open for you a secure shell session with the virtual machine that the directory is on that. So this means that if we are inside first machine and you have executed Vagrant up on that directory and you got great results, this means that your virtual machine is running and you can SSH to that just right now. So if I press enter, let's wait a few seconds and see what will happen. So you can see that I am now inside a Red Hat Enterprise Linux virtual machine that is hosted on my local computer. And this is pretty good because after you cover all the installations of Vagrant VirtualBox, creating virtual machines is really a matter of minutes. So that is what is so awesome with Vagrant, and let's continue to explore some more wonderful features by Vagrant. Alright, so now the next thing that you might want to do when you are just getting started with Vagrant, you want to also open the hypervisor's graphical user interface to really see the background magic that is happening on your computer. So opening the hypervisor, meaning the VirtualBox, could be helpful to understand how your virtual machine is configured easily. It will help you to understand how much memory it uses, how much disk space it uses, and some more stuff that is related to this virtual machine. Now, those could also be automated by using some Vagrant commands, but I believe that if you are just getting started with Vagrant, seeing the GUI of VirtualBox is going to be helpful to really understand what is going on. So in order to do that, then I'm going to search for a configuration that will be responsible to open the graphical user interface of VirtualBox once you load your virtual machine. So as you see, I keep scrolling down and I'm searching for that line. As you pay attention that most of the lines here are commented, then I'm searching for this line here, vb.gui equals to true. So you can see that we have a section that says display the VirtualBox GUI when booting the machine. So this is exactly what we need. So we are going to uncomment this and this. Now, of course, we are not going to touch that, although we can take this out, but you can see that this meant to be commented because it explained what it does, like a regular line of code. So now that we have this, we can save this configuration file and we can allow ourselves to get out of the secure shell and we can use a Vagrant reload. Now, by the way, reload is a command that you need to apply for every change that you take within your Vagrant file. Because think about the situation that you modify the amount of memory that your virtual machine uses, you probably need to reload the entire system to have the new setting being applied. So it is important to remember using this Vagrant reload once you finish modifying your Vagrant files. So I will go ahead and press enter and I can see that we have an error here, and I know what this is about because the configuration is like a block of code that we need to close once we finish modifying. So this means that we should be also uncommenting the end section in here because it finishes the configuration that starts in here. So now this should be okay and we should be able to execute Vagrant reload and really see the changes. Okay, so the fact that we see attempting graceful shutdown of VM is already good. Now, once it prepares again the virtual machine, we should see the GUI being popped up. And as you can see, this is exactly what is happening. Let me bring this in to the screen. And you can see that we actually see the hypervisor and we really see a virtual machine being loaded on our computer, and that's good. Okay, so you can see that by the time that the terminal finished executing its stuff, you can also see that we have the console that we can directly log into that system. And the interesting part of the graphical user interface is to really see the machine settings. So you can go here, click on machine settings, and you can see pretty much everything that you'd like to play with it and just explore the settings that this virtual machine comes with it. You can see in the system how much memory it uses, how many virtual CPUs it has, and just basically everything that you want to really see. Now, I do not recommend modifying the settings from the graphical user interface. You meant to do this from the Vagrant file because that is the beauty with Vagrant, using the configuration file and automate all the modifications. And this is just a nice tool to look at once you're just getting started with everything because it visualizes how things work in the background. Alright, so now that we understand a little bit about how Vagrant works, I want to share with you my favorite feature that Vagrant has. And it is the fact that you can directly share files with all the virtual machines that you want to create. So what this means? This means that you can dedicate a folder from your actual physical computer that will be shared across all the virtual machines. And that is perfect for testing projects that you come with it, or just basically that will help you to transfer files easily from the physical computer to the virtual machine, right? So the way that this is going to work is as easy as creating a directory that is called data in the VMs directory that we came up with it. So what that means? It means that if we were to go ahead and use a cd two dots to go back and then to create a directory that is called data, this will be enough to have shared folders across all the virtual machines. Now, there is one piece of thing that we should be doing if we want to share this directory with all the virtual machines, and it is the fact that we need to tell this to the Vagrant file. So the way that this is going to work is as easy as finding the line that looks like the following that is commented. So you can see that it says here in line 46 for myself, config.vm.synced folder is that one. So you can see that if we were to uncomment this, it is much readable. So you can see that the directory that is not inside the VM, but that is the parent directory, that is why we see the two dots, and then data is going to be mounted into the Vagrant data directory in the virtual machine itself, in the guest virtual machine, and that is just something that could be very helpful. So now that we have this, then again we can go ahead to our terminal, and again we can go back to first machine, we can go back inside to our first machine, and we can use Vagrant reload. And obviously we want to use Vagrant reload because we want to reload this configuration that we just added. Now, by the time that this is being prepared, I'm going to put the data directory that we have just opened side by side so we can see the shared folder inside the virtual machine. Alright, so there it is. We have the terminal and it completed to reload, and you can see that I'm opened the data directory inside the VMs like that. So pay attention that it needs to be outside of the directory of your first machine. It needs to be inside the VMs. So if I go here and let's just go ahead and create a random text file, right? I will go ahead and say file.txt and we will write some text inside of that. So I can say here, this is a shared folder, right? And I can just save it and leave it as it is. Now, the thing that we want to do on the left side in the terminal is SSH to our machine and to really see this file. And the way that we can do that is first execute Vagrant SSH on our directory of the first machine and give it a few seconds so it will connect securely to our machine. And then we want to check out for the directory that is looking like /Vagrant data. So if we use a CD to there and we use ls to see all the files, then you can see that I have it. I can read it with the cat command file.txt, and you can see that we see the result, right? Let me make this bigger, and again cat file.txt. You can see that we see this is a shared folder. Now I know that it looks weird because we might need to add a new line to this text file. Let's do that quickly. File.txt, let's save it with enter now, and now this should also jump to the next line. So I will clear it and I will say cat file.txt, and you can see that we have a perfect result. So this is probably the nicest feature about Vagrant that is going to help you a lot to play with the multiple virtual machines that you are probably going to create from now on. Alright everyone, so I hope you really enjoyed in this video. This was a great experience to talking you about Vagrant because that is really a tool that helped me a lot to learn Linux and basically all the Linux distributions, how it works and how it behaves to different things, because it is just easy to create those machines and to play with them quickly. So I hope you enjoyed in this one. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and as well as consider subscribing to my channel, and let me know in the comment section what you think in general about this video. See you next time.